Here's what actual trophy wives do really, really well. If you can master this, all of your relationships, not just with men, but all of your relationships will change. Ready?
A trophy wife knows
here we
that
go.
she
Every
always
single human
wakes
being
up way earlier than
imagines
her
or
husband
sees the world
and
as
spends
So
too
here's
much
how to
time
go
working
from a
out,
Okay,
single
it's just
mom
how
to a
we're
trophy
like
wife.
wired and how
And
our
I'm
eyes
talking from
are.
experience
So
because
our
I have
eyes are
my
not a camera.
10-year-old.
It's about the way you dress. It's about the way you talk. If you can't do that, it's going to be very hard for you to transition from being sugar baby to being trophy wife.
This mother, who goes by the social media handle the new trophy wife, seemed to have it all. Well, at least through the lens of social media. The perfect life, the perfect husband, and what some would call the perfect job, being a trophy wife. Some of you may have already heard about this particular situation, but for those who haven't, here's a summary of what a lot of people are calling a mother's worst nightmare. The new trophy wife's life was left shattered after discovering that her husband had been deeply inappropriate with both of her daughters, ages 2 and 4. After the new trophy wife shared that these horrific acts had been confirmed via her viral video, she also shared that her husband at the time essayed her 4 times previously. Now, this whole situation of an influencer championing being a trophy wife, sharing that with the internet, teaching other women to do the same thing, which is what a lot of her platforms were about, how to capture a man like she had when it comes to his finances and providing her the trophy wife lifestyle. There's so much you can talk about from just that alone. I will handle this situation with sensitivity because it doesn't get any worse than this. It does not get any worse than this particular situation. Now, with that being said, there will be coffee served here because while you cannot control another human's actions, when it comes to this particular situation, there are a few difficult things that need to be acknowledged and a few different topics that need to be addressed that we can't just skip over. So coffee will be served. Welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Chishu Zed. I've seen a lot of people cover this particular story from different angles. I haven't seen too many people discuss the elephant in the room, and that is modern women's obsession with rich men. But that's not what this is, right? This is really not about just modern women's obsession with rich men. I think that's too broad of a term because, again, a woman can want a man who makes the same amount as her. We see that all the time. A lot of women complain about that. Or they want to work, right? They want to make their own money. I guess in this situation, we're talking about a trophy wife in particular, meaning you are just a trophy, which is something we see growing in popularity amongst a lot of chicks out here, and men who are dating see it over and over again.
Would you date a married man if he paid your bills? That's how I met my husband. Sprinkle, sprinkle. That's how I met my husband. Sprinkle, sprinkle.
And you can't talk about sprinkle, sprinkle without mentioning who. Shira 7, a woman who's responsible for guiding a lot of these chicks on how to capitalize on a man for his money. That being the number one priority when it comes to why you want a relationship with him. And Shira 7 happens to be catching a lot of heat and blame at this very moment.
That woman absolutely listened to Shira 7s. And a lot of y'all who are Shira 7 fans are like, no, she didn't. Because if she did, she wouldn't have been online dating because Shira against that. If she did, she wouldn't have let him meet her kids so soon because Shira against that. She did like so many of y'all do. And she has selective hearing. That's what it is. That don't mean she didn't listen to Shira. It means she selectively listens to her messages and she chooses the parts she want to abide by and the parts that she don't. She added her own little remix to it. But nevertheless, she was inspired by the lifestyle that is being promoted by Shira 7s. Now, let's be very clear. Shira is not responsible for grown adults and the stuff that grown adults choose to do. Shira can make all the videos she wants, and it's up to you as an individual as to whether or not you want to actually listen to what she's telling you and go follow those rules. Regardless of what video it is, regardless of what message it is your personal choice to take her messages and actually apply it to your real life.
True.
I ain't got no beef with Shira because I respect the hustle. I done said it before and I say it always. Shira is the woman version of Kevin Samuels, regardless of whether or not you want to admit it or not. They gave the same message. They preached the same message. All right. It's just with a different twist. But her hustle was the same hustle as Kevin. Just like I respected Kevin's hustle, I respect her hustle because it's the same hustle. It ain't no different than when the Pookies was out here listening to Kevin Samuels and forgetting the part about you actually having to have money in order to apply what Kevin was saying. Right? It's the same thing, same situation. But at the end of the day, like I said, is it her fault? No. Could never be her fault for grown people doing what grown people want to do, right? But we ain't gonna sit up here and act like the inspiration wasn't Shira, because it definitely was. All right, just like she's inspired a lot of y'all. But like I said, that selective hearing get y'all every time. Y'all choosing and picking what you want to hear from people's messages completely different.
So there was a lot to unpack there in that video. First off, if you're sitting there still wondering, was she inspired by Shira 7? Well, the proof is in, and she admits it. Yes, she was.
I happened to come across Shira 7 on YouTube, and she completely changed my life. And she basically taught me what a high value man is. And
so there you go. That's a short video that's been making its rounds through social media of her admitting that, hey, everything changed for me when I ran into Shira 7. And so that video got around and reached everybody, including Shira 7. And in response, she says, I teach women to be smart, not desperate. And if you're desperate, don't claim me. Check it out.
To be smart, not desperate. If you're desperate, don't claim me. I'm sorry, but if you're sitting out there, you learned everything from me. Did you learn how to be smart? Did you learn how not to be desperate? You didn't learn from me. You learned from whoever putting clips out on TikTok 30 seconds long. You didn't learn from me. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Did you learn from this channel, or did you learn from 30-second clips on TikTok? Because I didn't put those out. You didn't learn from the YouTube channel? Did you learn over here? Did you learn what I said after 30 seconds? Did you hear what I said after sprinkle, sprinkle, or before? Did you hear that? Did you hear when I said stop being desperate? Did you hear when I said don't be a pygmisha? Did you hear when I talked about background checks? Did you hear when I talked about all this other stuff? About not dealing with men if you have kids until they're old and grown enough to speak for themselves and be in school and whatnot. Did you not hear when I said all of that? Because you was not following the real account? Don't blame me.
Oh, and we're definitely going to address that second point that was made in the last video about Kevin Samuels and Shira 7 sharing the same message, or how I've heard it, because I've actually heard that multiple times. It's not the first time I've heard that. How I've heard it is they are two sides of the same coin. I've heard it over and over again.
I always thought that everyone understood, and maybe it's just me, correct me if I'm wrong, that Shira 7 and Kevin Samuels were two sides of the same coin.
But back to Shira 7's impact on the new trophy wife. There's no denying that if money is your number one priority when it comes to the type of man you're looking to date for a long-term relationship and or marriage, then you are most definitely increasing the likelihood of attracting a monster, right? If money's at the very top, before character, before values, before knowing whether a man is able to control his emotions, before knowing who that man really is, then you are definitely opening up opportunity for you to run into the type of men who are evil. That is facts. That doesn't mean that men who have money are evil. That's not what we're talking about here. Follow me here. Follow me here. That's a fact. And her parading herself as a trophy wife, knowing that she was inspired by Shira 7, about being a trophy wife and the whole teaching other women to do the same thing, that could easily turn into you running into a man who has the means but doesn't have the type of character to build a healthy relationship. Now, Chisha, are you saying that all trophy wives are in this situation? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this obsession, more women prioritizing money, because you don't hear him really talk about other things until something goes wrong, right? Guys, don't forget to vet him. Make sure he has a good heart. It's when things go horribly wrong when a lot of these chicks start prioritizing other attributes, which is a lot more important than money, like the character of that man. Now, you may be saying, Chisha, how do you know, right? Well, check this out. I want you to listen to how quick she met this man, got a ring, and married him And then after that, we'll talk about the whole Kevin Samuels and Shiri 7 being two sides of the same coin, and how a lot of people confuse that to mean that their values and goals and their message aligned. Check it out.
It's about the way you dress. It's about the way you talk. If you can't do that, it's going to be very hard for you to transition from being sugar baby to being trophy wife.
At the same exact time that her and her ex's lease was about to end and she couldn't stay there no more, because again, it was her and her ex's place, she said the husband to be, but ain't the husband just yet.
It was so embarrassing to admit, but I was like, I need a place to stay because my lease is ending and I just broke up with my boyfriend, and maybe, even if it's just like for a couple weeks, it's okay.
Husband to be says,
got him. We got him.
you move in with me, you might as well consider yourself my wife. She says, what? I should? Oh, okay. Well, if you're really bowdy, I'm really bowdy. So what's up? Since he was talking about getting married, Issa said, you know what? I just got paid. I'm about to go get him a little ring.
So I had just got paid, seriously entertaining the idea of getting married. So I'm going to go and get the wedding ring.
She shows him the ring that she got him on their FaceTime. She said, look, babe.
Are you guys following this story? Lease is ending with the ex. Sees a man who she has labeled as the man who's going to put her in the position of her dream job, being a trophy wife, right? My lease is ending. I have nowhere to stay. She's in a highly desperate situation. He says, well, might as well be my wife and move in with me. She's obviously in a slightly desperate and vulnerable situation there. And she decides to go buy a ring for this guy, right? Who, it doesn't sound like they've really known each other for that long. Let's keep listening.
You and me shall never part. What you think? And he said, oh, okay. That's cool, baby. That's cool. Let me call you back after Chipotle deliver this burrito. And she was like, dang, you ain't got no Chipotle where you live at. Anyway, they get married at the courthouse the very next week. And
are you listening to this? Got the ring in a week.
Put that coffee down.
ISIS goes on to teach people how to get married in less than a year.
That's it. That's a story of how she met her husband. If any woman told me they were about to do this, I would strongly encourage them to not. And I think most people who drink coffee would hear that story and say, okay, so you really didn't know this person that well before actually marrying him, which is what it sounds like. Real quick, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. I want to get into this topic of Shiri 7 and Kevin Samuels being two sides of the same coin, because that's a term I've heard multiple times. And like, a lot of people look at that and say, okay, so this must mean they're pretty much teaching the same thing, have the same message. Let's talk about it. When I hear the statement, two sides of the same coin, when it comes to Shiri 7 and Kevin Samuels, I believe the people who say that mean that they have the same message, values, and they're pretty much saying the exact same thing. I guess the first thing we have to get straight here is that we have the same definition of two sides of the same coin. Definitions change today, right? Of marriage, of man, of woman. We have to have the same definition because this is a highly nuanced conversation. The phrase two sides of the same coin means closely related or interconnected, but they represent different aspects of the same situation. What situation are we talking about here? Well, plainly put, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. Both Shiri 7 and Kevin Samuels spoke heavily about what type of a man. Well, the type of man that a lot of women believed that they qualified for, which was a high value man, right? A man of means. It is in the pursuit of the high value man, where we're strictly talking about resources here, that they intersect, right? They spoke about that, both of them, closely, both addressing how to attain a high value relationship where the man is the high earning individual within that relationship. But their approach and goals were drastically different. And I would argue it is within their difference in approach and their goals for the average man and also the top percent man that makes their messages very, very different. For example, Kevin Samuels encouraged self-improvement and accountability, often challenging men and women to meet certain standards in order to create a high-value relationship. Shiri 7, on the other hand, is more about empowering women through highly questionable tactics like witchcraft and bold-faced lies and encouraging women to prioritize themselves and themselves only. A lot of her messages are strictly about personal gain, how much you can take, and to help as little as possible, which to me, and I think many people would agree, is a very toxic message. For example, in the situation of a marriage, I don't think Kevin Samuels would tell a woman that if you have to help your husband out with utilities within your marriage, then you are not a real man. The truth is, he actually encouraged most women that they're going to have to contribute to bills, and that there's only a select percentage of men who are going to be able to take on full responsibility of all the bills. Now, what would Shira 7 say if a husband needed his wife to help out with utilities? Well, she would say this.
How do you feel about the man paying all the rent and I just have to help with the utilities? I don't feel he's a man. I'm sorry. He gonna have to pay them utilities whether you there or not, baby. So why are you paying them? My question: why are you paying him if he have to pay him if you're not even there? Are those utilities in his name or your name?
So he's not a real man if he needs his wife to help him pay the utilities. That's ridiculous. I'll say this. I've never ran into anybody in this life who I agree with 100%. Anybody. Right? And so there are things that I've heard certain people say that I disagree with. Even Kevin Samuels. I remember him talking about leading with your wallet. I was like, you know what? I don't think I agree with that, right? Otherwise, I'd be sitting here talking down on men who take women on coffee dates. And you guys know that I don't see anything wrong with that at all. But back to the point at hand. In conclusion, when you compare Shira 7, Kevin Samuels, on the surface, you may look at that and say, oh, they're all talking about getting a high value man. So they're actually talking about the same thing. No, high value on both ends represents the status of that individual, usually his financial status. But it doesn't talk about whether he's husband material, she's wife material. It doesn't talk about whether he believes in God, right? What personal values do you align with? That's simply about him, not about the type of values, mutual values that person is seeking. It doesn't talk about whether they value family and children. Nothing about all that, because there are men who are of high status, who are obviously sick, like the husband of the new trophy wife, but are just plain evil. And there are other guys who did meet that qualification of high value that KS used to talk about a lot, who were married with families and they were happy. Then there were guys who really weren't interested in marriage. So I think to say they had the same message is really just an oversimplification of a highly nuanced topic. In conclusion, what can the men get out of this? Because this is a men's channel overall. I believe now more than ever, daughters, if you're a father, need guidance. No, they need guidance. They need guidance from the fathers in their life. If you look at the decisions that the new trophy wife was making that led to the situation that she's in now, it begs the question, what were her friends saying? You know, what were her parents saying? Does she have a father? I don't know, right? I haven't looked that deep into the situation. But as a father, if you have a daughter, then she needs you. And if you're in her life, then she is blessed to have you in her life. And if you're out here in this dating market, be careful. Be very, very careful. As always, I appreciate you guys for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.